So Taj Gibson is becoming one of my favorite players in the league, since he just keeps getting better every season. Before you know it, he's a guy who can beat some defenders off the dribble, grab rebounds, make a few plays for teammates, score in the post, score in isolations, and I think he has room to improve as well. And depending on where that improvement takes him this season, that could dictate how much money he makes in this upcoming free agency, because he is the first of 4 other guys that I feel are pretty underrated looking at the 2019 offseason. Another thing with Tobias is, what are the Clippers' plans? Because they're in a position right now where they have a lot of money to play with next year, and whether they would want to bring Tobias back and have him be the centerpiece of their future, along with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Lou Williams still has a few years left in him. Maybe they feel Tobias could be moved in some sort of a trade if a star player becomes available, or maybe some other team would just offer him too much money, because I would not be surprised if someone perhaps overpaid a little bit for a guy who is, 6'8", 6'9", can play a few different positions, and with how much the NBA loves wings nowadays, I think Tobias is going to be compensated pretty well. Ricky Rubio has a little more uncertainty to him, because I think even now, there are some people who would tell you Rubio is really not that great. Pass first point guard, even though his jumper was a little better this previous season, it's still not reliable. Good defender, not a great one, doesn't transform your defense. Just not a bad player, but not one who's really worth investing in, right? But there are others who would say, well, his playmaking is great, his defense is even better than just solid, and sure, his jumper may never be like a great thing, and there's always going to be times when defenders can leave him open. It's still not bad enough to make up for all the good things he does. The other question is he going to fit in with this Jazz team? They made it work last season. The last 20 or 30 games, him and Mitchell together went really well. Is that going to hold up? Should Mitchell be the guy dribbling the ball all the time for Utah? It's going to be interesting stuff. Nikola Mirotic has had an up-and-down NBA career. At his best, he seems like a stretch 4 who can put up maybe over 20 points a game, and at other times, he seems like a guy who can't make any outside shots to save his life, isn't athletic enough to really be a scorer, and he's just kind of this weird in-between. Now, in the playoffs for the Pelicans, he looked like the former of those two, and if he's able to extend that throughout this entire regular season, then he's going to make himself a decent amount of money, because you look at a player like Ryan Anderson, right? He's got the outside shot, but he's not a good athlete, not a good defender. Mirotic is actually a decent defensive player, and he's an okay athlete as well, to where he can survive starting for a lot of teams at the 4 spot, and he's better offensively than quite a few 4s in the league as well. So the Pelicans have a tough decision to make. I mean, they're already hugging the salary cap as it is, but they might have to hold on to him just to have some offense and some shooting outside of Anthony Davis, but somebody else could be tempted to take on that shooting for themselves. Kelly Oubre Jr., similar to Mirotic, has had an up-and-down NBA career. On his best day, he is a two-way athlete who can play the small forward and power forward positions, defend probably 1 through maybe even 4, and can just fit into an offense really well. But then on his worst day, he can't make outside shots, he's falling asleep defensively, he's not a good enough ball handler, and he's just this guy who is the template of the ideal player in today's NBA, but he doesn't have it all figured out. He's a restricted free agent, he's the only one here who is, so there's a chance that the Wizards could just match any offer he gets, but given that the Wizards' cap sheet is not exactly versatile, with Otto Porter and John Wall's contracts, then perhaps another team could come in and offer Oubre just a little too much to where the Wizards are not able to match, and then that new team can buy into Oubre's potential. He's definitely got the talent, we just have to see if he can put it all together. And our last one is Taj Gibson, who I could actually see getting traded this season. I think a contender should definitely entertain the idea of acquiring him, even if it's just for one season, because he's still an awesome rebounder, defender, and sure, he doesn't have the jump shot that you would want as a power forward nowadays, but he can play a decent amount of center, and he's such a smart player that he knows like how to cut, and he can just kind of patrol around the basket but not kill your spacing. He's just a really good two-way player who's been able to hold on, and we look at this T-Wolves situation, and if Jimmy Butler's not going to be here and this team isn't going to be that good, and Taj is all in on winning, which I don't know if he is or isn't. I mean, I assume he is because he's a little older now, but whatever it may be, once he's on the open market, someone's going to give him an offer, because they definitely should, because he can still be one of the best bench players and one of the best, like, 4th or 5th starters in the NBA, and someone who can just make your team better, even if he doesn't show up in the stat sheets every single night.